Management of land and natural resources stands as one of the most pressing challenges for developing countries today. Across the globe, the exploitation of high-value resources like oil, gas, minerals, and timber has often fueled or prolonged violent conflicts. At the same time, competition over diminishing renewable resources such as land and water is intensifying, driven by environmental degradation, population growth, and climate change. Mismanagement of these resources not only sparks new conflicts, but also hinders the peaceful resolution of existing ones. In this video, we'll explore the complex issues surrounding resource management, the roots of conflict, and sustainable solutions that can help societies move forward. Sustainable development has become a central paradigm in global policy and practice. At its core, it's about meeting human needs today while preserving natural resources for future generations. This concept recognizes the intricate relationship between economic growth and environmental protection. The idea is that development should not come at the expense of the environment or social equity. Instead, it should strive for a balance that ensures long-term welfare for all. As we delve deeper, we'll see how sustainable development shapes resource management and conflict prevention strategies worldwide. Sustainable development rests on three interconnected pillars: economic, environmental, and social. Economically, systems must produce goods and services reliably, maintain manageable debt, and avoid damaging imbalances. Environmentally, sustainability means maintaining a stable resource base, protecting biodiversity, and ensuring ecosystem services. Socially, it's about fairness in opportunity and distribution, with access to health, education, and gender equity. These pillars are not isolated. They overlap and influence each other, forming the foundation for policies that aim to balance growth, environmental protection, and social justice. In 2015, the United Nations adopted the Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, as a universal call to action. These 17 goals aim to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure peace and prosperity for all by 2030. The SDGs are deeply interconnected. Progress in one area often influences outcomes in others. They emphasize the need for balanced social, economic, and environmental development, and call for creativity, technology, and resources from all sectors of society. The SDGs address issues like hunger, health, education, gender equality, clean water, and climate action, forming a comprehensive agenda for global progress. Ethiopia has integrated the SDGs into its national development frameworks, particularly through the Growth and Transportation Plan II. Since 2015-16, the country has made strides in areas like universal access to quality education, sustainable water and sanitation management, and affordable energy. These efforts reflect Ethiopia's commitment to eradicating poverty and fostering prosperity. The government's strategies also focus on climate resilience, disaster prevention, and implementing international agreements like the Paris Agreement. By aligning national policies with the SDGs, Ethiopia aims to ensure inclusive and sustainable development for its people. To achieve the 2030 SDGs, Ethiopia has launched a new 10-year development plan. This plan prioritizes agricultural development, transformation of the manufacturing sector, and maximizing economic capacity through competitiveness and efficiency. It also aims to correct demand-supply imbalances, foster construction industry growth, and institutionalize urban management. Other key areas include supporting domestic investors, building technological capacity, and creating a climate-resilient green economy. By eliminating rent-seeking behaviors and promoting a developmental mindset, Ethiopia is positioning itself for sustainable progress. Despite its widespread adoption, the concept of sustainable development faces criticism. Some argue that the term itself is contradictory or too narrow, often confining global issues to the environmental context. The lack of a single, clear definition leads to implementation challenges, and there are concerns that the benefits may not reach all people equally. Diverse worldviews and cultural differences further complicate the understanding and application of sustainable development goals. Nonetheless, the overarching aim remains to create a just and balanced world, even as debates continue about the best path forward. Resource use policies play a crucial role in either preventing or fueling conflicts. In many localities, disputes arise over access to or control of resources like land, water, and minerals. These conflicts can be driven by unclear policies, unequal distribution, or poor governance. Understanding the main drivers of resource conflict is essential for developing effective strategies to address them. By examining local cases and broader trends, we can identify the root causes and explore approaches that promote equitable and sustainable resource management. Natural resources are classified based on their ability to regenerate. Renewable resources, also known as flow resources, can replenish themselves over time. These include living organisms like plants and animals, as well as non-living resources such as solar energy, water, and air. Non-renewable resources, on the other hand, do not regenerate naturally within a human timescale. They are often referred to as fixed or fund resources and include minerals, coal, petroleum, and natural gas. Understanding these categories is key to managing resources sustainably and preventing conflicts. Renewable resources are those that can naturally replenish themselves within a foreseeable future. These resources, also called flow resources, include both biotic elements like plants and animals, and abiotic elements such as water, air, and solar energy. Their replaceable nature makes them vital for sustainable development. However, even renewable resources can become scarce if overused or mismanaged. Proper stewardship is essential to ensure that these resources continue to support livelihoods and ecosystems for generations to come. Renewable resources are those that do not regenerate through natural processes within a human lifetime. These resources, such as coal, petroleum, natural gas, and various metals, are formed slowly over geological timescales. Once depleted, they are gone forever. This finite nature makes their management particularly challenging, as overexploitation can lead to resource exhaustion and long-term economic and environmental consequences. Responsible use and the search for alternatives are crucial for sustainability. Resource conflicts are typically categorized by the type of resource involved, such as extractive resources like minerals and timber, land or water, and by the main drivers of conflict. These drivers include disputes over ownership, access, decision-making, and the distribution of benefits and burdens. Often multiple drivers are at play, making resource conflicts complex and deeply intertwined with broader social and political dynamics. Recognizing these categories helps in designing targeted interventions for conflict prevention and resolution. Natural resource conflicts often reflect broader power imbalances within societies. Elite actors may use their influence to control valuable resources, while marginalized groups struggle for access and fair treatment. In many cases, resource governance involves a mix of customary and statutory institutions, creating hybrid political orders. These dynamics can reinforce inequalities and make conflict resolution more challenging. Understanding the role of power and governance structures is essential for addressing the root causes of resource disputes. There are three main drivers of conflict over natural resources: competition over increasingly scarce renewable resources, poor governance of resources and the environment, and transboundary resource dynamics. Each of these drivers can operate alone or in combination, often exacerbating existing social, economic, or political tensions. By identifying and understanding these drivers, policymakers and communities can develop more effective strategies to prevent and resolve conflicts. Resource scarcity occurs when the supply of renewable resources like water, forests, or cropland cannot meet local demand. This scarcity can be driven by increased demand, reduced supply due to environmental degradation, or structural inequalities in access. As resources become scarce, competition intensifies, often leading to disputes between different livelihood groups. Addressing resource scarcity requires a nuanced understanding of its causes and the development of equitable management strategies. Demand-induced scarcity arises when the demand for a specific renewable resource outpaces its supply. Factors like population growth, increased consumption, and new technologies can reduce the per capita availability of resources such as water or cropland. As demand rises, competition intensifies, making it harder for all groups to meet their needs. Effective management and planning are essential to balance demand and ensure equitable access. Supply-induced scarcity occurs when the total supply of a resource is reduced due to environmental degradation, natural variation, or infrastructure breakdown. As the availability of resources like water or land decreases, livelihoods are threatened and competition between groups can become more intense. Addressing supply-induced scarcity often requires restoring ecosystems, improving infrastructure, and promoting sustainable resource use. Structural scarcity refers to situations where different groups in society have unequal access to resources, even when overall supply is sufficient. This can result from poor governance, discriminatory policies, or social and economic barriers. For example, women may face restrictions in owning land or accessing water, while poverty can limit the ability to exploit available resources. Addressing structural scarcity requires policies that promote equity and remove barriers to access. Poor governance of renewable resources and the environment is a major driver of conflict. This includes unclear or poorly enforced resource rights, discriminatory policies, unequal distribution of benefits, and lack of public participation in decision-making. When governance structures fail to address these issues, grievances can build up, leading to disputes and sometimes violence. Strengthening governance is essential for sustainable resource management and conflict prevention. Any renewable resources, such as water, wildlife, and air, cross national borders, making their management a transboundary issue. Conflicts can arise when countries share resources but disagree over allocation, quality, or usage. Infrastructure development, pollution, and migration can all impact transboundary resources. Effective cooperation and agreements between countries are crucial to prevent disputes and ensure sustainable management of shared resources. Several real-world examples highlight the challenges of transboundary resource management. For instance, Iran and Iraq have worked to resolve tensions over the Mesopotamian marshlands, while Iran and Afghanistan have addressed issues in the Sistani Basin. Sudan and South Sudan coordinate on resource management, and the Palestinian Authority and Israel have negotiated over water and waste. These cases show the importance of diplomacy and collaboration in managing shared resources and preventing conflict. The Nile Basin is a prime example of transboundary water management challenges. 11 countries share the Nile's waters, and upstream nations have long argued for a more equitable allocation. Their demands include agreements on water sharing, sustainable food production, hydroelectric power development, and collaborative conservation efforts. The Nile Basin case underscores the complexity of balancing national interests, development needs, and environmental sustainability in shared resource management. Preventing conflicts over natural resources involves a range of approaches, methods, and mechanisms. Conflict prevention aims to avoid, minimize, resolve, and contain disputes before they escalate into violence. It's important to consider how resource conflicts are politicized within broader social and political contexts. Effective prevention strategies address the root causes, potential impacts, and possible interventions, ensuring that resource management supports peace and stability. The Sustainable Livelihoods Framework is a tool used by UN agencies and donors to understand how to reduce poverty at the household level. It examines how different livelihood strategies compete for limited resources and how social assets and institutions can help prevent conflict. The framework considers 5 types of capital: human, natural, financial, social, and physical. By analyzing these factors, practitioners can design interventions that expand opportunities, reduce vulnerabilities, and provide access to dispute resolution. A key approach to reducing vulnerability is livelihood diversification. This means encouraging people to engage in multiple types of work: agricultural and non-agricultural, on-farm and off-farm, self-employment and wage labor. Diversification makes livelihoods less dependent on a single scarce resource, reducing the risk of failure if that resource becomes unavailable. It's a practical strategy for building resilience in communities facing resource scarcity. Another strategy is to improve the efficiency of resource-dependent livelihoods and add value to raw goods. This can involve increasing production through better technologies or agricultural inputs, as well as processing and manufacturing to enhance value at each stage. By making better use of available resources, communities can boost incomes and reduce pressure on scarce resources, supporting both economic and environmental sustainability. Livelihood adaptation programs help communities adjust to declines in resource availability caused by climate change or disasters. These programs provide support to prevent livelihood failure, such as training, new technologies, or alternative income sources. Adaptation is essential in areas where environmental changes threaten traditional ways of life, ensuring that people can continue to support themselves even as conditions evolve. When time is short or resources are severely threatened, the focus shifts to protecting livelihoods and preventing the loss of assets. This can include food security programs, income and employment support, and market interventions. The goal is to prevent people from resorting to harmful coping strategies, like depleting natural capital, by providing immediate alternatives and support during crises. In situations where livelihoods are failing, emergency support becomes necessary. This typically includes life-saving interventions such as food distribution, selective feeding programs, and public health measures like water provision, sanitation, shelter, and healthcare. These interventions are critical for stabilizing communities and providing a foundation for recovery and future resilience. Governance of natural resources is essential for sustainable development and conflict prevention. It involves clear norms, institutions, and processes that determine how power and responsibilities are exercised. Effective governance ensures that decisions are made transparently, with participation from all stakeholders, including women, men, indigenous peoples, and local communities. Robust governance structures help reduce vulnerability, resolve disputes, and promote equitable resource management. Despite its importance, resource governance faces significant challenges. These include unclear or overlapping resource rights, discriminatory policies that marginalize certain groups, unequal distribution of benefits and burdens, and lack of public participation and transparency. Addressing these challenges requires legal and institutional reforms, equitable policies, and mechanisms for inclusive decision-making. Only by overcoming these obstacles can societies achieve sustainable and peaceful resource management. The first principle of good resource governance is to implement legal and institutional changes that clarify resource rights, responsibilities, and laws. This includes recognizing and respecting the rights of poor and marginalized people who depend directly on natural resources. Clear legal frameworks help prevent disputes and ensure that all stakeholders have a voice in resource management. At the national level, equitable access to resources should be a central goal of public policy and development programs. Ensuring that all groups have fair opportunities to benefit from resources reduces tensions and supports social stability. Policies must be designed to address historical inequalities and promote inclusive growth. Key component of good governance is the requirement for environmental and social impact assessments for major development projects. These assessments help identify potential risks and ensure that projects do not harm communities or ecosystems. By considering environmental and social factors, decision-makers can promote sustainable development and prevent conflicts before they arise. Increasing opportunities for public participation in decision-making and resource management is another critical principle. Community-based and collaborative management approaches empower local people to take part in decisions that affect their lives and environments. This inclusivity fosters trust, improves outcomes, and helps prevent conflicts by ensuring that all voices are heard. Even with strong governance, unexpected impacts on renewable resources can emerge as development progresses. It's important to have mechanisms in place to monitor, adapt, and respond to new challenges. Flexibility and ongoing assessment ensure that resource management remains effective and sustainable over time. Indigenous communities around the world have long used traditional mechanisms to prevent and resolve conflicts. These systems are often based on community customs, familial relationships, and institutional practices, operating alongside formal legal processes. In many societies, especially where access to formal justice is limited, Indigenous conflict resolution offers a practical and culturally rooted alternative. In Ethiopia, various ethnic groups have developed their own Indigenous conflict resolution systems. Examples include the Fetha Negast, the Elders, Shimagal in Sidama and Amhara communities, the Gadah system among the Oromo, and the Madar of the Afar. These mechanisms are deeply rooted in culture and tradition, often governed by unwritten laws passed down through generations. they play a vital role in resolving disputes and maintaining social harmony. Indigenous conflict resolution practices offer unique values, such as accessibility, cultural relevance, and community involvement. They are often more affordable and quicker than formal legal processes, making them especially valuable in rural or low-income settings. By drawing on local customs and relationships, these systems can achieve resolutions that are widely accepted and respected within the community. While Indigenous conflict resolution mechanisms have many strengths, they also face limitations. These can include a lack of formal recognition, potential bias, and challenges in addressing complex or large-scale disputes. Additionally, some traditional practices may not fully protect the rights of all community members, such as women or minorities. Balancing tradition with modern legal standards is an ongoing challenge. United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, adopted in 2007, affirms the collective rights of Indigenous peoples to land, self-determination, and conflict resolution. Key articles recognize their right to live in peace and security, require effective consultation before using Indigenous lands, and guarantee access to fair procedures for resolving disputes. This international framework supports the protection and empowerment of Indigenous communities worldwide. Natural resources are a vital source of income and power, but their management can also be a source of conflict. Resources are classified as renewable or non-renewable, each with unique challenges. The main drivers of conflict include scarcity, poor governance, and transboundary dynamics. Effective conflict prevention strategies must consider the complex interplay of causes, impacts, and interventions. Good governance, inclusive participation, and respect for Indigenous practices are key to sustainable and peaceful resource management. In Ethiopia, Indigenous conflict resolution systems like the Tiye of Somali, Gadar of Oromo, and Madar of Afar are governed by unwritten laws passed down orally through generations. These systems are tailored to local contexts and have proven effective in managing disputes over resources. Their continued relevance highlights the importance of integrating traditional knowledge with modern governance for sustainable peace. In summary, managing conflicts over resources is a complex but essential task for sustainable development. By understanding the types of resources, the drivers of conflict, and the importance of good governance and Indigenous practices, we can chart a path toward peaceful and equitable resource management. The journey requires collaboration, innovation, and a commitment to justice for all. Together, we can create a future where resources are a source of prosperity, not conflict.